We're all pretty familiar with relational databases, right? But as businesses grow, they often hit a wall.
A wall.
Yeah, trying to wrangle all that data, the sheer volume and variety coming from everywhere, different sources, it's a real struggle.
Absolutely. Different formats, different systems. It's a recipe for what we call data silos.
Okay, so data silos, right? We hear that term all the time. But can you break it down for us? Why are they such a headache?
Think of it this way. Imagine trying to get a handle on customer behavior. You need all sorts of data points.
From everywhere, right?
Exactly. You've got your CRM, marketing platforms, maybe even website analytics. But if all that data is locked away in these separate silos, well, you're missing a huge part of the picture.
Like trying to follow a story, but you only have half the pages.
Yeah, exactly. You can't see the complete narrative. You're making decisions based on a fragmented view.
So it's not just the data itself, it's the connections you're missing. So historically, how have businesses tried to solve this data silo mess?
Well, one common approach has been ETL, extract, transform, load.
ETL, right?
Yeah. It's basically a massive data relocation project.
Sounds intense.
It is. You're pulling data from all these different sources, then you have to clean it, format it, and then finally load it into a central repository, like a data warehouse.
A lot of heavy lifting.
It can be, especially now with the sheer amount of data companies are dealing with. It gets pretty unwieldy.
So if ETL is physically moving all this data, is there a way to get those insights without all the moving vans, so to speak?
That's where data virtualization comes in.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of physically moving the data, you're creating a virtual layer. It sits on top of your existing data houses.
Like a map of a city, right?
Perfect analogy. The map shows you where everything is, but it doesn't actually move the buildings or the streets.
So with data virtualization, I'm seeing all my data in one place without actually relocating it.
Exactly. You're getting a unified view without the data migration headaches.
Sounds pretty slick. But how does it actually work? What's going on behind the scenes?
Well, at the heart of it is something called a query federation engine.
A query federation engine, okay.
Yeah. So when you need data, this engine springs into action. It sends out queries to all your relevant sources, pulls back the results, and then assembles them into this nice unified view.
It's like having a central hub, a conductor for your data orchestra.
Exactly. It orchestrates the whole process seamlessly. And because you're not physically moving the data around, it's way faster and more efficient.
Now, before we go any further, I just want to clear up something. We hear all these terms, data visualization, data federation. Are those just different flavors of data virtualization or what?
Good question. So data visualization is all about presenting data.
Making it look pretty.
Yeah.
Charts and graphs.
Right. It's about making it easily digestible. But data virtualization, that's more about how we access and integrate the data at the source level.
So one's about the presentation, the other is about the plumbing.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's data federation. It's similar to data virtualization in that it creates a unified view, but it's kind of a less evolved approach.
Less evolved.
Think of data virtualization as data federation, but supercharged. It has way more capabilities like real-time query optimization, caching, much more powerful and efficient.
Okay, that's starting to make sense. So we're not physically moving data. We've got this virtual map, and it's all orchestrated behind the scenes. But how does this actually play out in the real world? Can you give us some concrete examples?
Absolutely. Let's say you're a retail company. You want to get a 360-degree view of your customers.
Yeah, every business wants that golden view.
Right. So you've got customer data scattered everywhere. Online store, physical stores, CRM, loyalty program. Silos galore. Yeah. But with data virtualization, you can pull all that together into a single view. You see their purchase history, preferences, interactions, the whole shebang.
Talk about customer insights. That's gold. What other scenarios come to mind?
Business intelligence, reporting. Let's say a company wants to analyze sales trends. They need data from their sales database, marketing platform, inventory, the works.
More silos.
Right. But with data virtualization, they can build these reports and dashboards that pull from all those sources in real time. So they're getting up-to-the-minute insights.
So better decisions, faster.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
It is. And it's not just speed. It also opens the door to self-service analytics. Business users can get the data they need without having to go through IT.
That's huge. But I'm guessing there's some hurdles involved in setting all this up.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges companies might run into?
Well, complexity is one. It's not like plugging in a toaster. You need a solid understanding of your data sources, data modeling, and data governance.
Right, so it's not just plug and play. You need a plan.
Absolutely. And then there's performance. Even though it's faster than traditional methods, you still need to optimize the system. Caching data, optimizing queries, making sure your infrastructure can handle it.
So efficiency is key.
Yeah, you want to make sure things run smoothly.
Any other potential pitfalls to watch out for?
Data governance is crucial. You're creating a single access point to all this data, so security and compliance become even more important. You need the right policies and procedures to protect the data and meet all the regulations.
So don't skimp on security.
Definitely not. And another thing to keep in mind, data virtualization is an ongoing journey, not a one-time fix. The data landscape is always changing, so you have to be ready to adapt.
All right, so we got a good foundation here. We know what data virtualization is, how it works, and some of the things to keep in mind. In the next part of our deep dive, I'm interested in, get a little more hands-on. How do you actually build this virtual layer, and what are some of the tools involved?
Sounds good. We'll dive into that next.
So we've got this virtual map of our data. It all sounds pretty impressive, but I'm curious, how do you actually build this virtual layer? What's involved?
It might seem a bit intimidating at first, but the tools nowadays are actually designed to make it, well, as straightforward as possible. The first thing you do is you connect to all your data sources.
Makes sense.
Could be anything, really. Relational databases, cloud applications, you name it. You can even pull in data from, simple spreadsheets.
So you're basically telling the tool, hey, here's where all the pieces are.
Yep, exactly. And the good news is most of these tools come with pre-built connectors for all the popular data sources.
So that makes it a lot easier.
It does. So once you've got all this connections set up, the next step is defining the virtual views.
Virtual views?
Yeah, think of it as creating the blueprint for how all that data is going to be organized and presented. You decide which columns from each source, how you want to combine it, any transformations you need to do, calculations, that sort of thing.
So it's like a custom-designed data warehouse, but without all the physical moving of data.
You got it. A virtual data warehouse, tailored to your exact needs.
This all sounds pretty technical.
It can be, but a lot of the tools out there now, they have these visual interfaces, really user-friendly. So even if you're not a hardcore techie, you can still build some pretty sophisticated virtual views.
Okay, so it's not just for the data scientists then?
Nope, not at all. There's definitely a learning curve, but it's a lot more accessible than you might think. All right, so once you've got your virtual views all set up, the next question is, how do you actually use the data? How do you get it into the hands of the people who need it?
Yeah, good point.
Well, most data virtualization tools give you a few options. You can expose the data through standard interfaces, ODBC, JDBC, that sort of thing.
Okay, so it plays nice with all the usual BI tools.
Exactly. People can use their familiar tools and workflows, but you're not limited to that. You can also expose the data through web services, APIs.
So you could feed it into custom applications, even share it with external partners?
Precisely. Lots of flexibility there. Now, going back to data governance for a second, how do you actually manage all of this when you're pulling in data from so many different places?
Yeah. How do you keep it all secure?
That's a great question. One of the nice things about data virtualization is that it actually simplifies data governance.
Simplified.
Yeah, because you're creating the central control point. You can set up security policies at the virtual layer, and those policies apply to all the underlying data sources.
So you don't have to configure security separately for each individual database.
Exactly. Makes things a lot easier to manage. You can restrict access to sensitive data, track who's accessing what, all that good stuff.
But it's not just about access. It's about control and security.
Right. You've got that central point of control, which is huge for compliance and auditing.
This all sounds fantastic, but I'm sure it's not all sunshine and rainbows. What are some of the speed bumps people hit along the way?
Well, one of the biggest challenges, honestly, is just resistance to change. Organizations have their ways of doing things.
People don't always like change.
It's true. So you have to get buy-in from everyone involved. You have to explain the benefits clearly, get everyone on board.
So the human factor.
Yeah, communication is key. And then there's the skills gap.
Skills gap.
This technology, it does require some specialized knowledge. You might need to train your existing staff or maybe even bring in some outside help.
Right, the right expertise.
You need people who understand the technology, but also people who understand the business side, how to translate business needs into data solutions.
Okay, so it's a team effort.
It is. Now, looking ahead, where do you think this is all headed? What's the next big thing in data virtualization? We talked about the cloud earlier.
Right, the cloud. It's everywhere these days.
It is, and it's having a big impact on data virtualization too. DVA, or data virtualization as a service.
DVA.
Yeah.
So basically you're getting data virtualization delivered through the cloud.
Exactly. It makes it a lot easier for businesses to adopt.
Lower barrier to entry.
Exactly. No need to manage all that infrastructure yourself. And then there's AI.
AI, artificial intelligence.
Yep. AI and machine learning, they're starting to make their way into data virtualization, which is pretty exciting.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Imagine a tool that can automatically detect data quality issues, or a tool that learns from your usage patterns and optimizes queries for better performance.
So AI becomes like a self-tuning engine for your data.
It does. Makes it smarter, faster, more efficient.
Okay, so let's say I'm a business owner. I'm intrigued by all this. What are my first steps? Where do I even begin?
Well, first things first, you have to figure out what you're trying to achieve. What are your goals? What specific problems are you trying to solve with data virtualization?
Start with the why.
Exactly. Then pick a use case, a pilot project.
Keep it small, focused.
Yeah, test the waters. See how it works for you. And then, of course, you need to choose the right tool.
Right tool for the job.
There are lots of options out there, so do your research, figure out what fits your needs, your budget, your technical expertise. And here's a little tip. Don't get scared off thinking it's only for big companies with deep pockets.
It's not.
Data virtualization has come a long way. It's a lot more affordable and user-friendly than it used to be.
So even small businesses can get in the game.
Absolutely. It's about democratizing access to data.
This has been incredibly helpful. Really eye-opening. I'm starting to see the potential here. But before we wrap up, I'm kind of curious about the bigger picture. We've been talking about businesses, but what about the impact on society as a whole?
Now you're getting philosophical.
So we've really dug into data virtualization, all the nuts and bolts. It's clearly a game changer for businesses, especially with all this data flying around these days. But I'm thinking, is this bigger than just like the business world? Does this have implications for, I don't know, society as a whole?
That's a really interesting question. And you're right, it's not just about companies and profits. This has the potential to impact all sorts of things. Think about like scientific research.
Researcher.
Yeah, imagine researchers being able to seamlessly access data from like all over the place, different labs, universities, whatever. That could really accelerate discoveries.
I see what you mean. Break down those silos.
Exactly. And it's not just science. Governments could use this to improve public services, make better decisions based on, well, better data.
Data-driven government. Interesting.
Right. And healthcare, think about that. What if hospitals and clinics could easily share patient data?
More holistic view.
Yeah, it could lead to more personalized treatments, better outcomes. It could revolutionize healthcare.
So this is like way bigger than just a business tool. It's almost like a societal tool.
It really is. It's about democratizing access to information, making data work for everyone.
Okay, so before we wrap things up here, I want to leave our listeners with something to, chew on. We've talked about how data virtualization can help businesses run smoother, but how do you think it'll change the way we live and work in the future? What kind of possibilities, what's on the horizon?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, with all these technologies evolving so fast, AI, the Internet of Things, who knows what the future holds?
Right, it's all changing so quickly.
But one thing's for sure, data is only going to become more and more interconnected, more accessible. And that's bound to have some pretty profound effects on pretty much everything.
It's exciting, but also a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, it's a brave new world out there.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. Thanks for walking us through it.
My pleasure. It's been fun.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Keep exploring the world of data, and who knows, maybe data virtualization will be a part of your future. Until next time, keep learning and keep diving deep.